The note was taped inside my medicine cabinet. My own handwriting, block letters, pressed hard enough into the paper that it tore a little at the corner. Don't trust Courtney. Courtney is my daughter. I stood there in my bathroom at 6 in the morning, holding a piece of paper I didn't remember writing, staring at 4 words that told me not to trust the only child I had left. My hands were shaking before my brain even caught up to why. My name is Frankie Lawson. I'm 74 years old. I've got dementia, the kind where some mornings I can tell you exactly what I ate for breakfast, and other mornings I can't tell you what year it is or how I got from my bed to my kitchen. And for the last week, I've been finding notes like this one hidden around my house, my own handwriting, all of them saying some version of the same thing. Don't trust her. Check the accounts. She's lying to you. Today is one of the good days. My head is clear, sharper than it's been in weeks, and I've learned something about the good days. You don't waste them, because I don't get many, and I never know how long they'll last. Before I go any further, if you're watching this, drop a comment and tell me where you tuned in from, and hit subscribe. We tell true stories here, the hard ones, the kind people don't want to talk about once they hit 70 and their own mind starts working against them. Now let me tell you what I found. My wife's name was Julianne. 20 years ago, she started something out on Route 9, just past the edge of Dayton, a place called Fresh Start Home. 18 kids live there now. Foster teenagers, the older ones nobody wants to adopt, the aged-out system kids at 18 with a garbage bag of their belongings and nowhere to go. Julianne gave them somewhere to land. She ran that place herself for 2 decades, right up until she died. Heart attack, sudden. 18 months ago, I woke up next to her and she was already gone. After the funeral, Courtney took over running it. Said she wanted to keep her mother's work alive, keep the lights on for those kids. I believed her. I had no reason not to. I believed her until this morning. I peeled the note off the inside of the cabinet and carried it out to the kitchen with me, and that's when the doorbell rang. 2 sharp knocks, and I already knew who it was before I opened the door. My grandson, Dustin, Courtney's boy, 22 years old, studying social work at the state school, and the only one in this family who still shows up at my door without calling first. "Morning, Grandpa," he said, holding 2 coffees. Then he looked at my face, and the smile dropped off his. "You okay? You look pale." I didn't answer him right away. I set the note down on the kitchen table between us and let him read it. He read it twice. I watched his eyes go over those 4 words a second time, like maybe they'd say something different if he tried again. "You wrote this?" "It's my handwriting. Look at the R's, the way I make the tail. It's mine." I sat down across from him, my legs suddenly tired. "I don't remember writing it." "Why would you write that about Mom?" I didn't have an answer for him. What I had instead was 31 years of training I couldn't shut off even now, even with half my brain falling apart on me. 31 years working fraud cases for the county before I retired. Some habits don't leave, even when everything else does. So instead of answering him, I got up and went to the little desk in the corner of my living room, where I keep my printer and a stack of bills I mean to sort through and never do. There was a sheet of paper sitting in the output tray, a bank statement, Fresh Start Home's account, printed on some date I couldn't remember, at some hour I couldn't place, numbers circled in red ink, my red pen. I recognized the cap, chewed on one end, sitting right next to the printer where I'd left it. Payments going out, $4,000 to a company I'd never heard of, $9,000 to another one. Round numbers, spread out over months, all of it circled like somebody had been paying close attention. Dustin came up behind me and looked over my shoulder. "Grandpa, when did you print this?" "I don't know." I ran my thumb over one of the circles, my own ink, some version of me I couldn't remember being, marking something she seen and thought was worth marking.
I didn't circle these by accident. I know what a red flag looks like. 31 years, I know. My phone buzzed on the table before he could say anything else. Courtney's name lit up the screen. I let it ring, once, twice, then I picked it up. "Mom's not answering fast enough for you?" I said, trying to sound normal. "Dad?" Her voice was clipped, moving fast, the way it gets when she's got somewhere to be or something to finish before somebody catches up to her. "I'm coming by this afternoon. There's some paperwork. I need you to sign a few things." "What paperwork?" "I'll explain when I get there, around 3. She hung up on me before I could ask her again. Just like that, gone, dial tone in my ear. I set the phone down slow and looked across the table at Dustin and then down at the statement still in his hands, red circles staring back up at both of us, and the note sitting between the coffee cups. Don't trust Courtney. Whatever it was she planned on putting in front of me at 3 o'clock this afternoon, a clear-headed version of myself, a version I had no memory of ever being, had already tried to warn me it was coming. I just didn't know if I should be scared of her or scared of losing the only proof I had.
We drove out to Fresh Start home before Courtney could get to me first. Dustin behind the wheel, me in the passenger seat with the bank statement folded in my jacket pocket like it might burn a hole through the fabric if I looked at it too long. Route 9 outside Dayton is mostly empty road and dead cornfields this time of year, and the building sits at the end of it, red brick, a little tired looking, steps cracked down the middle. Julianne picked that building herself, said it needed to look lived in, not like an institution. Kids had been through enough institutions. Inside, it smelled like coffee and something microwaved. A boy sat in the common room with headphones on, didn't look up. Somebody was running water in the kitchen. Normal house sounds. For a second, I almost forgot why we'd come. Then a woman stepped out of the hallway, mid-40s, blonde hair, pulled back tight, a clipboard against her chest like armor. Elizabeth, the director Courtney hired last year after Julianne passed. "Mr. Lawson." Her smile went up too fast, came down too careful. "This is unexpected." "I want to see the financial records," I told her. No warm-up. At 74, with a brain that quits on me some mornings, I don't have time to warm up to things anymore. All of them, not summaries, the real books. She blinked like I'd asked her something in a foreign language. "I'd have to check with Courtney first. She handles all of that now. I don't need Courtney's permission to look at my own wife's foundation." The common room had gone quiet behind me. The boy with the headphones had taken them off. Elizabeth led us back to what used to be Julianne's office. They'd repainted it gray. New desk. Filing cabinets I didn't recognize, sitting where Julianne's old wooden ones used to be. She unlocked one, pulled out a thin folder, handed it over like she was handing me a scrap. "This isn't enough," I said, flipping through 2 pages of summary numbers with nothing behind them. "I need invoices. I need the real statements. Those are at Courtney's house." I didn't wait for her to argue. I went to the cabinet myself and started pulling drawers, and I heard her say my name behind me, sharp, but I wasn't listening anymore. 31 years of chasing paper trails doesn't leave a man just because his memory does. I found a folder marked Vendor Services and pulled it loose. Invoices, a dozen of them, names that I'd never heard of, names that sounded made up if you said them slow enough. 6,000 here, 11,000 there, every single one signed off with Courtney's signature at the bottom, small and neat, the same signature I'd watched her practice as a teenager at our kitchen table. Dustin was already taking pictures with his phone, quiet, methodical, the way I taught him to be careful once, a long time ago, before either of us knew we'd need it for this. That's when a girl came down the stairs, 15, maybe 16, thin, watchful eyes, the kind kids get when they've moved through too many houses that weren't really theirs. Abigail Frederick. I recognized her from a photo Julianne kept on the refrigerator. "Mr. Lawson."
Her face lit up just a little. "Hi. Hey, sweetheart." My voice caught in my throat. "How's school going?" "Good. Got a B on my history test." "That's wonderful." She wandered toward the kitchen, humming something under her breath, gone as quick as she'd come. And I stood there in that office holding proof that money was disappearing out of the place that kept a roof over her head, and all I could think was, does she know? Does any of them know what's coming for this house? Elizabeth's phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at it and her face changed, just for a second, but I caught it. Guilty or scared, maybe both. "We should go," Dustin said quietly, close to my ear. "She's calling Mom right now." He was right. We had what we needed, or enough of it to matter. We thanked Elizabeth, who didn't smile this time, and walked back out past the cracked steps to the car. Dustin pulled out of the lot fast, gravel kicking up behind the tires. "She's calling Mom," he said again, like saying it twice would make it less true. "I know. What do we do when she shows up at your house?" I looked down at the folder in my lap, invoices with my daughter's name signed clean across the bottom of every single one, and I didn't have an answer for him, because somewhere underneath the fear, underneath the fog creeping back in around the edges of my good day, there was a worse question sitting in my chest that I couldn't say out loud yet. What if the notes I wrote to myself weren't warning me about what Courtney was doing? What if they were warning me about what I was about to find out?
3 o'clock came fast. I was sitting in my own living room when the doorbell rang. The folder from Fresh Start hidden behind the couch cushion where Dustin had shoved it 20 minutes earlier, and my heart was going like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Courtney stood on the porch in a gray blazer, hair pulled back neat, a leather folder of her own tucked under one arm. My daughter, 46 years old, and put together the way she's always been, even as a kid. Sharp edges, everything in its place. "Hi, Dad." She leaned in, kissed my cheek. Her perfume was expensive, sharp, the same kind she's worn since college. "Can I come in?" I stepped back and let her in. She saw Dustin sitting at the kitchen table and her whole face changed, just slightly, the way it does when something's not going according to her plan. "Dustin, I didn't know you'd be here." "Just visiting, Grandpa." "How nice." She said it like it wasn't nice at all. We sat, she across from me on the couch, me in my chair, Dustin quiet at the table with his phone face down in front of him, all those pictures sitting inside it like a loaded gun nobody had fired yet. "Dad, we need to talk about your living situation." She opened her folder, papers slick and organized, the kind of folder you bring when you've already made your mind. "I found a place, Sunrise Manor, 24-hour care, memory specialists on staff." "I'm not going to a facility. You fell last week. Dustin told me." I hadn't fallen last week. I didn't remember falling last week. But I didn't say that out loud, because arguing about what I remembered and didn't remember was exactly the kind of fight she wanted to have instead of the one I'd come prepared for. "I found something today," I said instead. Her hand stopped halfway through pulling another paper from the folder. "What do you mean?" I nodded at Dustin. He set his phone on the coffee table between us and turned the screen around. Invoices. Her signature, small and neat, at the bottom of every one. Courtney went very still. "Where did you get those?" "Fresh Start, this morning." "You went to the foundation." Her voice climbed, thin and tight. "You went behind my back and bothered Elizabeth and the kids?" "I asked to see the books, Courtney, that's all. And what I saw was thousands of dollars going out to vendors nobody's ever heard of, signed off by you." "Those are legitimate vendor contracts." "Vendors for what?" She didn't answer right away, and in the silence I heard the fridge humming in the kitchen and my own pulse in my ears, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment she either explains it or she doesn't. "You don't understand what you're looking at," she finally said, quieter now. "Then explain it to me." She closed her eyes for a second, like she was deciding something, weighing it. When she opened them again, there was something in her face I hadn't seen since she was a teenager caught in a lie she was too proud to admit to. Not anger anymore.
something closer to fear. "Not like this. Not with him here." She looked at Dustin. "Not today. Courtney, I need you to trust me a little longer, Dad." Her voice cracked, just barely, just enough that I almost believed the crack was real and not another piece of the performance. "There are things about the foundation, about your mother's, about Fresh Start that I haven't told you, that I haven't told anyone. And I will. I promise you I will. But not today." She stood up fast, gathered her folder against her chest like she needed something to hold on to, and headed for the door. I got up to follow her, my legs slower than my head wanted them to be, and by the time I reached the hallway, she already had her hand on the doorknob. "Courtney, wait!" She turned around, and for just a second, under the porch light coming through the little window in the door, I saw her the way I hadn't let myself see her in weeks. Not a woman hiding stolen money. A woman carrying something so heavy it was bending her in half and too scared or too proud to set it down before her own father. "3 days," she said. "Give me 3 days. Then I'll show you everything. All of it. I promise." She left before I could answer, and I stood in my own doorway with my daughter's taillights pulling away down the street and the folder full of proof sitting behind my couch cushion, and I realized I had no idea anymore which of us was more afraid of what those 3 days were going to uncover.
3 days. That's what she asked for. And I didn't have 3 good days left in me. I knew that the way you know weather's changing before it hits. So the next morning, when my head was still clear, I told Dustin we weren't waiting. "She asked us to trust her," he said, driving me across town, both hands tied on the wheel. "I've spent 31 years learning that people ask for time when they need to get their story straight, not when they're getting ready to tell the truth." We went to the bank first. Isaac Smith had managed our accounts for close to a decade, a careful man, the kind who double-checks everything twice before he says a word. He recognized me the second I walked in. "Mr. Lawson, what can I do for you?" "I need the full account history for Fresh Start Home, 3 years back, everything." He hesitated, glanced toward his computer screen like the answer was sitting right there waiting on him. "Your daughter's the primary on that account now, sir. I'd need her authorization to—" "I'm the founder's husband. That building exists because of my wife. I have every right to see where the money went." He looked at me a long moment, then at Dustin standing behind me, then he sighed and told us to wait in his office. He came back with a folder thick enough to need both hands. I went through it slow, the way I used to go through case files back when my brain did what I told it to do without arguing. The pattern jumped out at me before I even hit the second page. Withdrawals, transfers, money moving in careful, deliberate layers, the kind of moving that isn't sloppy, isn't an accident, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. 6 months ago, the foundation had $81,000 sitting in its account. Today, it had a little over 11. "Grandpa," Dustin's voice had gone flat, the color draining out of it. "That's not enough to keep the doors open." I kept flipping. New LLCs, registered 18 months ago, right around the time Julianne died, all of them tied back to accounts I didn't recognize, every wire transfer signed off with Courtney's name. My hands were shaking by the time I set the folder down, not from the disease this time, from something colder. She did this after Mom died, right after, like she was scrambling, or covering something, and the words sat ugly in my mouth, scrambling to cover something that started before your grandmother even passed. We thanked Isaac and walked out into the parking lot, and I stood there a second in the cold with the folder against my chest like it weighed more than paper should. "There's something in the garage," I said, suddenly. The words came out before I fully understood where they'd come from, some buried thread pulling loose in my head, a memory trying to surface through the fog. "Julianne's old office, in the garage. I haven't been out there since she passed. Courtney's the one who cleared it out." Dustin looked at me. "You think there's something in there she didn't want you to find?" "I think," I said slowly, "that maybe I already found it once, before, on one of my clear days, and I think that's what I was trying to warn myself about." We drove home faster than we should have.
The garage door stuck the way it always does in cold weather, and when it finally gave, the smell hit me first. Dust, old paper, the particular smell of a room nobody's touched in a year and a half. Julianne's desk was still there under a sheet, filing cabinets against the far wall, one of them slightly open, like somebody had gone through it in a hurry and not quite closed it all the way back. I pulled the drawer open the rest of the way. Inside, underneath a stack of old grant applications, was an envelope with my name on it. My name, in my wife's handwriting. Not Courtney's, Julianne's. I stood there in that cooled garage holding an envelope from a woman who'd been dead for 18 months, my hands shaking so bad I could barely get a grip on the flap. And somewhere behind me I heard Dustin say my name, like he already knew, the way I already knew that whatever was inside that envelope was going to change which one of us in this family I'd been wrong about all along.
The envelope had one line on the front. My wife's handwriting slanted the way it always slanted when she was tired. Frankie, only if it's bad. Read it only if it's bad. I opened it right there in the garage, with Dustin standing behind me, not saying a word. Inside was a letter, and behind the letter, bank statements, old ones, older than anything we'd pulled at the bank that morning. Julianne's handwriting again, dated almost 3 years back, before either of us knew anything was wrong. Frankie, it started, if you're reading this, I couldn't fix it in time, and Courtney's had to step in and clean up something I started. I need you to know, it wasn't her. It was never her. It was me. I had to sit down. Dustin pulled a stool over from the workbench, and I dropped onto it, the letter shaking in my hands. Julianne had started borrowing against the foundation almost 4 years ago. Small amounts first, bridging a gap in payroll, she wrote, just until the spring grant came through. Then bigger amounts, moved through shell accounts she set up herself so the board wouldn't see it on the books. She'd been trying to save fresh start from a funding cliff nobody else knew was coming, and instead of asking for help, she'd quietly buried the foundation in debt trying to outrun it alone. I found out I was sick 8 months before the heart attack, the letter said. Doctor called it something with my heart, said stress makes it worse, and God knows I was drowning in stress trying to hide this from you and the board both. I should have told you. I should have told everyone. I was too proud, and now I'm running out of time to fix what I broke, so I'm telling Courtney instead, because she's the only one strong enough to carry it. I looked up at Dustin. His face had gone white. She knew, he said. Mom's known this whole time. I kept reading. Julianne had told Courtney everything 2 months before she died, the debts, the shell companies, all of it, and made her promise one thing: never let Frankie find out how it happened, because it would break what was left of him faster than the disease already was. She has to be the villain in this, Frankie, if it ever comes out, Julianne had written, near the bottom, and I could hear her voice saying it, stubborn to the last line. Let her carry that instead. I already took enough from this family. Let me keep the one thing I have left, which is you remembering me the way you loved me. The garage went very quiet. She's been paying off Mom's debts, I said slowly, the pieces finally locking into place the way they used to when a case finally broke open. The LLCs weren't her stealing. They were her negotiating your grandmother's mess down to something survivable. Every dollar we thought she was taking out, she's been putting back in. Then why not just tell you? Dustin's voice cracked. Why let you think she was the one? Because your grandmother made her promise. I folded the letter carefully, the way you'd fold something that might not survive being unfolded twice. Your mother spent 18 months keeping that promise, even while I was writing myself notes calling her a liar. We drove to Courtney's that evening without calling first. She opened the door in sweatpants, hair down, and the second she saw the envelope in my hand, whatever she'd been holding up for 18 months came apart all at once right there in her doorway. I was going to tell you. I swear to God I was going to tell you.
I didn't know how to make you understand without you hating her for it, and I couldn't take that from you too, not on top of losing her. Courtney, I pulled her in before she could finish. She was shaking. I don't hate her, and I don't hate you. The foundation's still $11,000 from closing, she said into my shoulder, muffled, exhausted in a way I hadn't let myself see until right now. I've been trying to hold it together by myself for a year and a half, and I didn't know how to ask for help without the whole story coming out. You're not by yourself anymore, Dustin said from the porch step. Either of you. We stood in that doorway a long time, the three of us, nobody saying much else. Later that week, Dustin started organizing his fundraiser through his program at school. New donors, people who'd never known Julianne, who didn't need the old story, just the truth of 18 kids who needed somewhere to stay. Courtney and I went through the real numbers together. No more folders hidden behind couch cushions, no more notes taped inside medicine cabinets. I still forget things. Some mornings I wake up and ask where Julianne is, and Courtney sits down next to me and tells me gently, all over again, like it's the first time. But I don't forget this part anymore. Not really. Not the important part. That the daughter I spent weeks suspecting had spent a year quietly protecting two people at once, her mother's memory and mine. That the notes I wrote on my clear days weren't wrong exactly. I just didn't understand yet who they were really warning me about. Fresh Start Home is still standing. 18 kids still sleep there tonight. And for however many clear days I've got left, I plan on spending every one of them making sure my daughter never has to carry something like that alone again.